Welcome to Therapy Facts with Dr. Jenn. Today we are going to talk about the therapy facts from Katt Williams and Shannon Sharp's interview. So, of course, by now the video has over 36 million views. And so, of course, this clinical psychologist needed to jump into the conversation. And I'm doing it by way of the theme of my channel, which is therapy facts. And so, the first therapy fact that I took away from the interview is the fact that we often experience gaps between the parenting we get and the parenting that we need. Katt Williams certainly admitted to this experience, and he talked about what he did with it. And what he did with it is to build upon what he received. He did not have a certain expectation of what his parents should be providing to him in terms of parenting and guidelines and requirements. However, he certainly had a reaction to them. And he stated that essentially they were not suited to what he needed for parenting. And so he left home at age 13 after some negative interaction with his father and with some concerns for the little brothers that he left behind. And what he did when he left at 13 and became homeless, as he describes, is he built upon the foundation that his parents had provided for him. He talks about continuing to educate himself. He talked about continuing to be concerned about the people around him. He talked about continuing to hone his craft and decide how he wanted to show up in the world in terms of a career. And when he decided he wanted to be a comedian, he used himself as his measurement stick and continued to improve upon himself and upon his skills as a comedian, despite the gaps that he experienced from the parenting that he received. So often people can point to gaps in the parenting that they received as the reason for paralysis, as the reason why they were not able to maximize their adult experience. In therapy, people learn how to grieve the gaps that they had in their parenting experience, and also how to forgive their parents and or caregivers for not being able to give them what they needed. Most of the reason why there are typically gaps in what we need and what we get from our parents is because while there are many parenting books, especially today, there is no particular parenting book for the particular child that a parent receives, nor for the particular human the parent is when the child shows up. And so sometimes people are able to extrapolate from examples around them or even from books and television shows, videos, etc. And sometimes people are not. In the extrapolation, sometimes people get the extrapolation as intended and sometimes they don't. And so there's typically a gap, and people move forward by recognizing that gap and again forgiving their very human parents for having the gap or for having a gap in their ability to parent that particular child. And so Katt didn't necessarily talk about forgiveness as I heard, but he certainly did not allow, in his telling, he did not allow the gaps in what he experienced and what he needed to paralyze him or to keep him from the life that he had imagined for himself. He still imagined a life for himself, regardless of what his experience was, and he moved deliberately and very intentionally toward creating that life. He, of course, has tons of examples and stories that I don't have to recall here, but that was an important takeaway. We all get gaps. We all experience gaps between what we need from our parents and what we get from our parents. It's up to us to decide what to do with those gaps. And the best case scenario is to use the what we received as the foundation to create the life that we want for ourselves.